All right. Welcome back, everybody, to Ghost in the Scene, Certified Audio Sage show. Not just podcast, officially a YouTube show. We've made it to the big leagues. We actually started as a YouTube show years ago, but we're returning because, we perfected the form of podcasting and we want to perfect the form of YouTube. But of course, Ghost in the Scene Audio Sage, certified ghost-friendly podcast and show. I'm your host, Gio Chopatazzi, and I am back with my co-host, Rob Thomas. Rob, how's it going, dude?
Gio, it's a privilege to be on with you, and truly a privilege because, this new era for us isn't always guaranteed because whenever you try to, go up in the big leagues, you're gonna find more opposition, stronger opposition. And guys, gals, X's, Y's, we were basically shadow banned from the internet these last day and a half or so.
Yes.
They could not handle it that we are now on YouTube where you can actually see us. And we were trying to do this yesterday even, and they wiped us from the internet.
It's tough when you are a David versus the Goliath that is Google, that is, Windows, that is, anything. I mean, we were trying to get a deal with some cable companies, and the executives, of course, when they saw our content, knew that, they couldn't just relegate us to some Ancient Aliens type of show, that we would be speaking more truth to power. I mean, no shade to those guys. They're great scientists in their own right. But, here we thought that YouTube would show us some kindness, and so far it's been a little rocky, but we've had our history with them. We started, with them. We were lucky enough to grow our intelligence and our audience with YouTube at the start. So I'm just hoping that there's some fairness going on because, the world is for the living. That's true. But I think that our voices matter, and now our faces matter. I think that's important too. So I'm excited to start this new series, this new season, with all of the returning people from the podcast. Come check us out on YouTube. If you've listened to our voices before, you ever wanted to know what we look like, you got the option to do that now. And for everybody on YouTube, we got so many goddamn episodes, so many podcast episodes that are just juicy, full of content, full of facts, historical, scientifical, paranormal facts.
Empirical, there's no doubting this stuff. And, I just want to give a shout out to the people that have been watching us in person this whole time. Those of you who have been astral projecting
Yes.
and seeing us on the astral plane, because of course we've been there the whole time. And so this really isn't new for us. It might be new for you, but we're just expanding our reach. We're expanding our accessibility because we realize now that not everyone actually can astral project, and it's okay. We're not trying to call out any of our listeners, viewers out there.
It's very funny that you can't, but we're not going to blame you for it. I just think it's cute. It's cute and it's hilarious. But we will get you there if you need.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, this is a little enticing thing, but if you go back to a couple of our episodes, we do focus on astral projection. And there is some nuggets of info that we found very useful back when we were amateurs ourselves. So I think that's something for everybody. And yes, I mean, for everybody in the astral plane, welcome back. I mean, we've been doing almost 24-hour sessions sometimes. And so I'm glad that you're here with us in the corporeal form and you're sharing some breath with us. And this is going to be an intense few years of the show. I mean, let's not get it twisted, right? Ghost in the Scene ain't going nowhere. They thought they
Mm-mm.
could bring us down. Not happening, okay? And what we're now living in might be a Hollywood apocalypse. That is something that it is very clear to a lot of people. People are saying it, and I mean, here's the thing that I mean we haven't really talked about. We might have even talked about it for like the last couple episodes. If you could go back to maybe our episode about Maverick, it was how Maverick saved Hollywood, right? They mentioned how it saved Hollywood, and now you got a movie, Barbie, Oppenheimer, that whole phenomenon. They saved Hollywood. That implies that Hollywood is at risk, right? It is in danger of dying. And it needs to be saved.
Again
And
and again, it's not like, the superheroes come in. I mean, that's why there's so many superhero movies, Gio,
yes,
because the peril that Hollywood finds itself in, it constantly needs to be saving. So they just need to keep churning these out. But as we're seeing, the well might be running a little dry.
absolutely. And that's the problem when you treat your workers like garbage. That's the problem when you start using artificial intelligence, aka ghosts.
Ghosts.
I mean, come on. Like they thought they could get away with just using ghosts instead of artificial intelligence. And so what we're seeing is just like a reversal of how the old Hollywood used to work. I mean, half the people that you would see in the movies in the 1940s, I mean, there's a reason why you can't find them anymore because there's
Hmm.
so much paranormal stuff happening. I mean, you can imagine the CGI that we have today. Back in the early 20s, they were doing things that we can't even imagine because the ghost use rule was not even in place at the time. So it was going bananas. And of course, now there is a ramping up of this because they're starting to treat, the human worker less, giving them less, and that gives the ghost worker an overload. Now they're working triple overtime, and that's not fair to them either. So, what's happening right now in Hollywood? Everybody knows what's happening. There's a strike going on, and it started with the writers, right, Rob?
Absolutely. Yeah, I would say about maybe 2 months ago, maybe May, June, the writers said they've had enough. They're going on strike. We're not writing anymore. In fact, I think the letter that they wrote that they said they're going on strike was the last thing they've ever written. And I feel a little
Wow.
bad for their families because they're not writing to them.
No text
Uh,
messages to their loved
None.
ones.
Mm-mm.
No late night hookup meetups for them for the next, who knows, they're scared to go and celibate. Or I mean maybe if they get lucky on the picket line, they can meet up the old fashioned way.
Absolutely. I mean, but it's part of the sacrifice that they're making. Going on strike, it takes a lot of personal sacrifice. But they're standing solid so far. Then the actors joined a few weeks later. And then even more recently, Gio, I understand that even the municipal workers of Los Angeles
Wow.
are going on strike. So this is expanding.
And we can only hope that it continues to expand, right? And because every time that it happens, that there is action that happens on the other side, and we need there to be pressure on these people because not only are they running giant conglomerates and corporations, but they are doing paranormal, some would say occult, but those are the people that have fear in their heart when it comes to magic with the K, but not us. But I mean, they do some stuff that is extraordinary when it comes to business. Business is a magic, is an art, and art is magic. I mean, art is ghosts. They use them in their practices. They're using Ouija boards, and they're Ouija boarding the Rockefellers. They're getting their info. So all of that to be said, these people need to be held accountable, and the strike is good for that. And what is happening right now, though, is because nobody is talking about the paranormal, we have werewolves that aren't allowed to howl at the moon because it's in their contract. We got vampires that are going to labs and drinking artificial blood. They're not even being able to feast on people that are willing to give, because there's a whole sect of the fetish community that love donating their own blood and other fluids. And so all of this is contractual based, and Hollywood is doing this to the cryptids and to the ghosts.
Right. I mean, and I would say obviously it's up to the workers to call a strike, right? No one forced them to do that in the sense of like you have to go on strike. But, the situation is at hand where in their if you talk to them, they said we had to go on strike because of the working conditions that were placed upon them by Hollywood. Like you're saying, Gio, they're working double, they're working triple. And we're talking about them using ghosts in AI. We keep on hearing about artificial intelligence in here, and like we just said, it's ghosts. All right. Let's not fool ourselves what's going on. Computers can only do so much. And you ask anyone that's in AI, it's like, well, the computer's only as smart as the data you put in. What do you think they're jam packing those computers full of? Ghosts.
Ghosts.exe.
Ghosts, everyone.
Boo.
And if they can't get a
.exe.
computer to create an image, you just go get a ghost and throw it in there, and you call it artificial intelligence.
If we think about the amount of human faces that have existed on this planet in the history of its existence, then yeah, just spit out one guy from 500 years ago and call that a generated image. Bada bing. You're fooling the local rube who's, doing something. And like, think about it. There are so many people that look like Bill Clinton, fighting Obama, on like a, what do you call it? Like American Gladiators kind of stage. People type that into their generators. There are so many lookalikes in the history of the world. All they got to do is throw them on there. And sometimes you see them missing fingers, because back in the day, peasants, you were caught taking an apple, they're ripping off your pinky finger. So that's why they were such an issue with fingers back when AI was in its early days. But people caught on and were like, hey, what's going on with all the fingers? Some people had extra fingers because, of course, what do you do when you take someone's finger?
What are you going to do with that finger?
You got to put it on yourself. That's a benefit you get for being a storekeeper back in the day that they don't let us do anymore. So all that to be said.
But it's a tell. It's a tell.
It's a tell.
Right. And I'm going to wrap this back on to terms of the strike, because what are you doing now when you are employing all these ghosts? You are sidestepping the SAG, the Screen Actor Guild members, the actors, and you're sidestepping paying anyone for compensation. They're not paying these ghosts to do this work. This is forced labor. So, it's so many ethical issues going on. And if you think about like, well, this isn't really affecting us here. There's the big celebrities. They're going to still be getting movies. But guess what, everyone? We're all going to be ghosts someday.
Oof.
Right? We're going to be shuffled off this mortal coil at some point. And then what? We will just be plugged into the machine. So this is for the long game. And sometimes you got to take a little burn, you got to take a little bit of pain now to protect the future and even future generations after us. This is a pivotal moment in Hollywood.
So well said, Rob. And here's the thing: we can handle the strike as far as content is concerned, because there's just so much content out there, and there's so much ghosts out there that have yet to be discovered, and not in like a pitchfork kind of way where we're going to attack them, more in like a Pokemon kind of way where we make them our friends, right? And we might capture them, but they eventually realize that it was because they were a little wild, and then we tame them into becoming a part of society. And I think that's something that ghosts are a lot like Pokemon. And the strike is what we need right now so that we have time to find all of these extra ghosts, because at the speed of content right now is just lightning speed. I mean, even without films, you have music, you have other podcasts, you have television. A lot of the television's also being halted.
Hmm.
but there's still so many seasons that, are just coming out or have come out. So many ghosts to uncover. So don't think that we're going to stop uncovering and making new discoveries. But we do stand with the strikers. And what's happening now, though, and this is like the sick Hollywood game that they play, we have an issue where there is ghost abuse. There is an overworking of ghosts. And we also have an issue where now ghosts are being created because of the strike. And it's ghosts of people's careers, it's ghosts
Hmm.
of the movies themselves, of the projects of these movies that might never see the light of day. Some of these are in caskets. They haven't really poured the dirt over them, right? They're waiting for the final
They're kind of
nail
like
in
in
the
those
coffin,
refrigerators that they keep the bodies in,
where
like
Rocky
in,
was punching the,
yeah.
the, the big meats. So there, Rocky's working him over, right? And some people think maybe it's a bad thing. He's trying to get their heart started again, right? He's trying to save Hollywood. But what's happening right now is all of these strikes are devastating blows to these projects. All of them have 5-year leads now, 10-year leads. I mean, some of them are indefinitely halted. So Rocky can only hold, so much. He's sweating, right, through his gray sweatsuit. And I mean, let's go through some of these. Aladdin 2 delayed, right? The list of Disney movies delayed is incredible. Pirates of the Caribbean, thankfully, delayed. We wouldn't know if Johnny was going to return, but that's thankfully delayed. So Aladdin 2, Pirates of the Caribbean, what was it, 8 or some shit? Uh, let's see. We got The Mechanic sequel. Christian Bale's returning, and he's doing like a Darren Aronofsky, like The Whale kind of thing, where he's doing another weight kind of change. That's canceled. Never gonna see that, everybody. If you wanted to, sorry. Christopher Nolan's was working on a new movie about the guy who created the Dorito. Sorry, sayonara.
That's not happening. That's not happening. And yeah, I think it's such an interesting perspective, Gio, that no one really talks about. Everyone talks about ghosts from the human perspective. Obviously, being humans, we care about human ghosts. We have few pet paranormals, all right? People understand they're ghosts of their pets and they like to communicate with them.
Yes.
Everything can be a ghost. All right, I'm
Yes.
going to say that again. Everything that you see, everything that's out there can be and will be at some point a ghost.
Yes. Yes. Okay. I mean, think about this. I mean, this is something that's so intrinsically like basic that you just immediately get it. Okay. The gates of heaven. When they talk about heaven, the gates. Where do they get the metal from? Where do they get the gate from? It's a ghost of a gate on earth. The throne or the steps that you walk on. Where do you think these things come from in heaven? They come from ghosts on earth. Fire, every fire that you've created, that man has
Mm.
created since the inception, since the lightning struck the tree and man, Eureka, discovered it. That's when the fire pits of hell were created, right then and there. That was taken, that fire. So it's so basic that it almost doesn't make sense to people. But yes, everything is a ghost. And it's just because we've lived in so many civilizations that I think that, okay, this is something that people don't talk about. And maybe we should kind of discuss this. But I don't know when's the last time heaven was remodeled.
Mm.
It might be a little tacky now. They're living in the Mayan era, kind of stone temples and that kind of stuff. I'm
Yeah,
just
or Caesar's Palace, but the original Caesar's Palace.
right. They're defecating into holes. There's straight up no plumbing type stuff. Maybe there's some running water. I hope there is ghosts of running water. Ghosts comprise 99% of water. I'd say
Hmm.
most of the time.
Hmm. I mean,
Maybe
and then you got the river Styx as well. So I mean, there you go. That's where the water's going.
exactly
So,
flows into some type of giant ocean down up there, down there. So yes, there's a lot of talk about remodeling heaven and hell, and we can eventually get there. But right now, let's kind of stick back to what's happening, the hell on earth that is
mhm.
Hollywood, because what's been happening is a result of the previous 10 years of exploitation, but these last couple of years we've seen something very different because the formula that Hollywood has been using has worked for a very long time. For these last 10 years, it's been hand over fist billion-dollar movies. Thanks to Marvel, thanks to DC, thanks to all these kind of cultural movies, they were making billions of dollars. Well, the well dried up and we got some flops. This is probably the summer, the year that Hollywood has officially started to break a sweat financially. The flops are coming in hard. We got Indiana Jones. We got that Teenage Kraken movie, The Flash. Right? What other flops we got?
I
Oh,
mean,
Black Adam.
exactly. And I mean, Disney also taken a fair share of it. Think of any sort of animated film that they've tried to throw out in the last couple of years. None even really come to mind because it's just been a flop after flop, belly flop. So, I mean, it's very interesting to see how Hollywood has kind of devoured itself in the sense of all these companies are buying out all these other companies, trying to sit on top of the mountain here, and it looks like the foundation's getting a little bit shaky underneath them. It's hard to hold that weight when you're that big,
It's,
and it's coming back a little bit to them.
it's turning into a haunted mansion. And that was a
And there we
flop.
go, and that's another flop.
Another flop. And what we're seeing now is a sea change. We have a say in this. We, the people, but also we, ghost in the scene. I think if this is something that you're new to, you wouldn't understand our history with Disney. But if you're a fan, if you've listened to us before, if you've seen our show, you know that Disney has been one of our biggest enemies, one of our biggest nemesis. We've had issues with Johnny Depp and how they employed him as Captain Jack Sparrow, kind of gave him a platform to prey on all of the people as a vampire, an unethical vampire, yes, of course. So, yeah, I mean, we've had our issues with them, and now we see that Johnny Depp is kind of on his way out, but he might be kind of on an upswing. We don't know. We never know with that guy. Got to keep him in our sights. But Disney's definitely tanking right now. I mean, you got all of the Star Wars fatigue, the same thing with the superhero stuff, and as they're trying to narrativize how they're saving themselves, Hollywood is saving Hollywood with these stories. I mean, I don't want to say that Barbie is a bad movie, but the entire time I'm thinking paranormally, right? I can't get the goggles off when I'm watching movies anymore. And so I'm thinking this is a movie about a possessed doll. This is basically Chucky, right? And as much as people want to say that it is not a movie about Chucky and not a movie about a possessed doll, I think it speaks for itself. They're in Barbie land and they're like happy and fun and being played with by people, necromancers, right? So I mean, there's a lot we could really get into it, and maybe in the next
Future episode,
future
perhaps.
episode
Yeah.
we might do a deep dive into the whole Barbenheimer thing because this is one of these spells that is just so obvious that so many people fall for it. It's like a trap that you think is funny, so you walk into it, and then you realize it hurts really bad. So there's a lot to be said about what's going on in Hollywood right now and the flops and the strike happening at the same time and how there is something to be said about Hollywood is not as dumb as you think they are. That they might be using this strike in a way to make more ghosts, to further their ghost exploitation. We're going to see Mr. Bogart on set one day in a movie, in a new movie. Same thing with Marilyn Monroe, same thing with James Dean. All these people are going to be thrown back. The Hollywood machines going to regurgitate their faces and their spirits back onto the silver screen. And that's maybe that's what they're working on right now. The
And it's
first
very
ever.
clearly what they're working on. It's like they're already dipping their toes in it. They like to do this with people that have recently passed away. So they say, we were working on this film, and to respect them and the work that they're doing, we're gonna put this scene, back, and then we're gonna put, Carrie Fisher as Princess Leia, just like for a second. It's just a second. Don't freak out. But then it starts to go a little bit further. You
Yes.
were talking about the Flash.
Yes, The
You know,
Flash.
they insert the ghost of Christopher Reeves in there. He's been, transitioned to that other side for, well over a decade now.
Christopher Reeves, as Superman was iconic back in the day, and he is Superman, right? But he's also a ghost now who has his own autonomy. I think people forget that when you pass on, you still, your spirit is what has autonomy at that point, right? Your flesh no longer does because it can't function anymore, right? But your spirit still has a say. And the fact that they didn't ask his permission or didn't pay him, because let's get it very clear. A relationship with a ghost is much like a relationship with people, right? If you ask for a favor, they want something in return, and they want it in a monetary or some type of physical way. They don't want a promise for the future. They want something real. And you got to, be real with these ghosts. And so I don't believe that Christopher Reeves would have done this role without getting compensated. And the fact that they didn't compensate him because we looked up the numbers and I didn't see any money going towards his ghost.
No money in that line item budget that said money to Mr. Reeves Ghost. Even look at the credits of the movie. That's public information. You can look at it anywhere on the credits. Did you see, at least a thank you to Mr. Reeves Ghost?
Wow.
Absolutely not.
It's a damn shame. This is the kind of thing where we talk about, the insidious part of Hollywood, how they are 4D chessing us in a weird way, where they've been doing the Carrie Fisher thing, the face swap, the General Tarkin, kind of thing, where he looked like a video game character, but it was him. They just made him look that way so that we could think it wasn't really him. This is the 4D chess I'm talking about. They have ghosts in these movies, literally acting, doing their roles, and then they CGI them to look worse. So when you were watching The Flash, everybody was talking about how the CGI was so bad. And it's literally because they were in a rush. They used all the ghosts they could. And then what happens? It was like people were literally flying around the set. They couldn't do anything to make it look any cheaper, any more, less real. So they threw some CGI stuff on it and they made it look like it was a little more funky, so it's more believable. And this is the kind of thing they do. It's unfortunate because that's the hard work that the ghosts put into that. When they see the movie, their heart's broken. They were like, I didn't fly that way. I flew a perfect figure eight. And they chopped it up. I mean, this is the kind of thing. So not only do they get exploited on set, but then their work gets corrupted. It gets chopped up. It gets broken down. They're not able to... And this is why they're starting to strike. And they're not able to have a say. They don't have a voice at the table anymore. They used to put the Ouija board down at the writer's room. And they don't do that anymore. Because the writers aren't allowed to. The corporations told them no. And that's what's truly... I mean, Ernest Hemingway has written so many... A Dude, Where's My Car? Was ghost written by Ernest Hemingway. And he was having fun. He's making connections with Ashton Kutcher. He can't do that anymore. So this is the type of thing where connections are being lost because the strike is necessary. And I think that this is a time where we need to start making those connections outside of Hollywood, We start, connecting on a more paranormal level, astrally, maybe something like that. I think Matt Damon is a pretty good projector, so we can maybe talk to him. He's a really good striker out there. So, shout out to everybody that's striking right now and expect a little cool breeze of ghosts to be following you, because I think that they are going to join the picket line very soon. And I think that's important.
It is. I mean, that's the silver lining on all this. That's the empowering part that, people, ghosts, cryptids, are all joining together in a way that we haven't seen before. Usually people are kind of staying there, all these sort of beings are staying in their own lane. But now, we're all realizing that, we have equal stake in this. And we need to go out and, you know, fight for what's ours. So that's what I think is a great takeaway. We're talking about things are collapsing, all this stuff, but really what at the end of the day, what will be empowering is for these unions. And it's not just about the stars, it's really mostly about these background actors that will never have a say otherwise, right?
Yes.
From top to bottom will be able to dictate what is actually going on in Hollywood. The ghosts will be able to say, this is how I want to work and be respected. And for that to actually be listened to and adhered to, this
Yes.
this is the big picture plan. But it's going to be difficult. They're coming at us from all angles. We were talking about these companies are on the ropes, but it's 40 chest. And Gio, I'm at this point I'm going to introduce a new segment. I was kind of
Oh,
teasing before. All right.
yes,
This is
yes.
going to be a new segment. We're on a new platform. This is a new segment. It is I'm going to make a prediction. I've been channeling my psychic powers,
Yes.
and in each episode I'm going to make a prediction
I
of
can
something to
feel your
happen.
power. It's so strong. I can feel it from over here.
Absolutely. It's just, with the right crystals, you can
Yeah, anything
take the
is
right
possible.
herbs, anything is possible. And this is what's going on. Especially this one's about Disney, and they are having trouble finding their next leader. They've gone back to their old leader, Bob Iger, for a little bit.
That's right.
And here's my prediction. They're not going to be actually going forward for a new leader. They're going to reinstate an even older leader. In fact,
What?
my prediction is we are going to see the return of Walt Disney's head
Oh my
within the
god.
next 5 years.
Oh my god.
And he's going to reclaim the mantle of Disney CEO.
This makes so much sense, Rob. Next year, 2024, is the 100-year anniversary of Mickey Mouse, where he enters the public domain. Now, if you know anything about psychic energy, and this is to the listeners, of course, you understand that attention, that the passing around of a symbol, of a sigil that is Mickey Mouse, is itself a spell. Now, if the image of Mickey Mouse travels through the internet, how many times during the moment that he becomes public domain, how many of those times it crosses will Mickey make a pentagram? It's exponential. I mean, I don't want to do the math, and I think there are mathematicians listening that will, and I thank you for it. But yes, the amount of psychic energy channeled through the public domain creation of Mickey Mouse will create, I think, the catalyst needed to get Walt Disney back from the grave. And I mean, like everybody knows, his head is frozen somewhere in some deep freezer. And so we can imagine that energy will maybe short the freezer. The freezer's going to actually go on the fritz, and they're going to need to figure out a way to get him out. And will that be a robot body? Will that be a human donor? Because there's what we call Disney adults.
Mm.
They're willing to give anything for Disney. And I think there would be a wait list of people that would be willing to swap heads with Disney, where they literally give, their head, they put it in a freezer, and they wait their turn for another body that's ready, but Disney takes theirs. So that could be something. I mean, if you're a Disney adult, I would just say beware of any emails inviting you for like a hat check where they're doing a measurement on your head or anything. I would not do anything like that for Disney in the next 2 or 3 years, because they might be measuring something more than just the shape of your scalp. They might be actually doing a shoulder check to see if your neck matches with his. So, great prediction, Rob.
It's happening, and the specifics will become more clear as it happens, but he's making a comeback. Like the rest of this, we're speculating on some stuff, but I can feel it. The prediction itself is crystal clear. Walt Disney's head is making a comeback in the next 5 years.
That's right, because like I said, it's like my route to this reality is just one path. There are so many paths to him coming back. There could be Bradley Cooper is really hot right now. He could want to make a biopic, might maybe want to bring him out to talk to him, and then maybe just bring him out and have him in the movie. Who knows? He did a lot for Lady Gaga. What could he do for Walt Disney? I mean, that's the question. And I think 2025 is not too far off. You said in 5 years, so 2028. I mean, that's 2028. That's a lot of numbers that we could get into numerology, guys, but let's just say it's not a good year for paranormal enthusiasts. That's going to be a very charged year, 2028. So, okay. If we have Disney coming back, we had Disney on the ropes for the last couple years. Disney comes back, he's going to change everything. We're going to get different things. As far as like new content, we're not going to get Toy Story 5 or 6. We're going to be getting original content, I think. And this is like, I'm hoping that he is actually like pro strike.
He is not, famously.
Oh no. Well, maybe, 50 years in the freezer changes his
Maybe
mind.
he'll change the brain chemistry, but
I hope so. He comes back
but
nicer.
this is what I'm saying, Joe. Like, we can't hope for like a benevolent leader to come save Hollywood. That's the narrative that they're trying, that Hollywood's trying to sell us. And it's a failed, as we can see, that policy is failed.
Yes. Hollywood, stop waiting for a frozen head in a freezer to fix all your problems. Because Walt's busy right now. They're going to thaw him out. And then when he gets out, he's going to go to a buffet. And he's going to eat and have a digestive tract for the first time in 70 years. So leave him alone. Okay, don't get all your problems on him. Okay, figure it out yourself. And this is people like who's Iger, right? Is that the guy? Bob Iger? Igor. I mean, Igor was Frankenstein's. The doctor's
assistant,
helper, created Frankenstein. I mean,
it's right there.
There's a reason why they brought him back, Rob. They needed their Igor. Wow, this is pretty interesting. And of course, we've yet to see a Frankenstein reboot in the last couple of years, and I think the strike prevented that for the better. I think the set they were going to use for that future Frankenstein movie might have been used for something else. Who knows? But okay, let's wrap up with a little movie review. We're doing the classic Ghost in the Scene movie review. Now, we watched a movie that has been, I would say, controversial, but also not that controversial. It's controversial for a few different reasons. It's controversial because people that have been promoted it want it to be controversial as a way to promote the movie. But it's also been controversial in the way that they've used ghosts. And that's where we take offense at Ghost in the Scene. So, Rob, The Sound of Freedom. Jim Caviezel. Have you heard of him? Jesus Christ?
Yeah, that name rings a bell. Mr. Jesus Cristo.
Literally method acted his way onto a cross, right? I mean, he told him, put the nails in, Chief. He told him. And they said, are you sure? Are you sure? He said, I'm going to do what he did. I'm going to do what he did. I'm going to die and I'm going to come back. And he did it. I mean, he had to take a course with some magicians and they taught him how to hold his breath, how to do some breath training. So yes, Penn and Teller told him how to resurrect himself. He was lucky enough to talk to Teller, and Penn, the one that doesn't talk. He told him the secret. That's the one thing that he'll tell you if you pay him $20. He'll tell you how to resurrect yourself. So we got him back from the dead, and he's starring in this movie about a real life person, a person that's still alive. So now, if we think about it, in this universe, there is two versions of this man that exist. There's the Jim Caviezel version, and then there's the real life version. And he is like a child trafficking, like, investigator type guy, right? And the whole thing is like, that's great, good for him for, busting the ring. If that's all true, based on true story, more power to him. That's great. But what they did, because they thought it was controversial, and I'm not really sure why, but they started making ghosts see this movie.
Yeah, and just for a little bit of context, because you might have seen some news about this film. It's been popular in certain ways. Something you may have heard, and kind of the buzz around this film is that at the end of the film, it tells you, wow, this is such an important film. If you donate money to this film, we will buy a ticket for someone else to go see this film to see how powerful this is.
Wow.
Which is, that's if that's what you're doing, and you got a noble cause, and great. That sounds like a great thing to do.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, though. People started going around to these movie theaters. They say, okay, I need to see this movie then. They go like, oh no, the show is sold out. Wow, they must be buying a lot of tickets for people. They go in their theater. They're lucky enough to get like the last ticket. The theater is half empty. Or at least it looks that way.
To the untrained eye, it might look half empty. We know better than that at Ghost in the Scene. We know that there are ghosts literally everywhere. Most of the time, ghosts are being shot out at maybe 5Gs, 6Gs from the silver screen to you. And there's a reason why they call it silver screen, right? For the paranormal implications,
yeah.
of course. So there's all of these ghosts shot at you. But what we've been having is there's been a reversal of that in Hollywood. And that's why we've had all these flops, is there's been a sucking of ghosts. And so what the Sound of Freedom is doing is they're buying these seats. They're inviting ghosts, conjuring them to the theater.
Inviting.
Yeah, of course. Inviting very strongly,
Those are air quotes for our podcast listeners.
Yes, of course. And yeah, now they have all these ghosts captive, and they turn the vacuum on. They turn that little vacuum on, and all of a sudden, the ghosts are sucked into the movie. And that film reel is then given back to big Hollywood, and they're using those ghosts in not only work, but they're using them in VFX, they're using them in writing content. Chat GPT, more like Chat GP Ghost. Okay? Now, this is a serious
Ghost
problem.
Protocol technology,
Yes. Yes.
If you're wondering what that actually stood for.
So, all of this stuff that's happening right now, and you have the Sound of Freedom being a part of that, right? And it's like, okay, if the message is so important and you want to spread it, I totally get that. But using ghosts as a way to promote that is itself a form of trafficking. You're now trafficking ghosts.
I mean, for me, I think they're totally aware of this, though, Gio. It's like they're saying the quiet part out loud. It's like, or they're projecting, right? They're not astral projecting. They're projecting the violence that they're saying. Wow, like, isn't it terrible that there's so much trafficking up in the world? We're gonna expose the light on that to hide their own trafficking practices against ghosts.
Yes.
That's what really grinds our gears here at Ghost in the Scene.
And we're shining the light. We're doing the spotlight on them. The Sound of Freedom's not going to get away with this because the Sound of Freedom, is our theme song. Okay, it's Ghost in the Scene, and that's the sound of justice. That's the sound of true, not patriotism for your nation, but for your fellow being. Not only person, but for the ghosts, but for the vampires that are ethical, for the werewolves that don't turn other people into werewolves on purpose, right? They do this because, you know, it's for the love of the werewolf. And, there's a thing about the strike that I want to leave everybody with. If you see a Bigfoot, don't take a photo. He's there.
Unless you get the image, you didn't sign the image rights, you know?
Exactly.
There's a protocol.
That's the thing. The respect that people have given Bigfoot is incredible, because when they've taken a photo, he's always come up and said, "Please, respect. I'm a model. My image, actually means something to me, and I need that. I need the copyright on my image." So he has talked to people, and they have agreed. Most people agree to Bigfoot's terms. And so if you see Bigfoot on the picket line, please do not take a photo and try to get a selfie. He's there for solidarity. He's there be there for him, for what he's doing too. And that means you're there for the strike. Take a photo of the picket signs, that kind of thing. It's not a celebrity moment. And same thing with Damon, same thing with all those guys. Just treat them like you would any other schlub. And that goes for the Chupacabra, that goes for the Mummy, all kinds of people out there, the cryptids that you're going
Yeah,
to
I
see, the
mean,
Mothman.
from Mothman, I mean, yeah, we talk about big ticket cryptids, even like the more niche ones, like your Selkies out there.
Yes.
There's so many. We could go on and on.
So just be aware that also don't step on any of them. There's some small cryptids out there, goblins, gnomes. So for everybody out there, we're glad to be back, glad to be on YouTube, and of course we do a sign out for everybody. Stay in the scene.
Keep your eyes on that screen. You know what's up. You are the bedrock of this show. So big shout out to our street team that makes this show possible. Whenever we come on air, stay extreme, everyone.
Take care.